Today we're gonna be moving my two queen Camponotus nicobarensis colony from this Frankenstein-looking mumbo-jumbo to the tarheel Nucleus nest. The Nucleus is an awesome nest and it had served my Floridanus colony greatly, and I hope to have the same result for my nicos as well. But before we get started with the moving process, let's take a quick recap on how this colony get to this point. Pretty much a year ago today, I had received these two beautiful queens and few workers. Although the beauty was inarguable, I was honestly not impressed. From what I had heard from other ant keepers was that these girls were supposed to be fast growing, and yet, even with two queens, the amount of eggs and workers were just a bit underwhelming. And since I was a beginning ant keeper, I was kinda getting worried that I might have put them into the nest a bit too early. Luckily, I was urged to be a little bit more patient and not to bother them as much, so I waited one whole month, and things were starting to heat up. The initial eggs that the queens had laid had all developed into cocoons, and I had noticed that the queens were starting to lay eggs more frequently. But at the time, I was still getting disappointed with the amount of the brood I had. Oh man, was I gonna eat those words later. By the third month, the colony had been fully established, and the workers had often come out to forage, and their need for protein had drastically increased. And when I peeked into the nest, I was pleasantly surprised with the first generation of the majors. What was funny at the time was that majors did nothing back in that day. They literally just sat around and acted like a fridge. Even the queens were more active. When the 6th month came rolling around, the colony was unrecognizable. They had grown so much that I had to give them a bigger nest, and just like a middle child, they got the hand-me-down, which was the tarheel fortress from aquarium, which the Camponotus floridanus called home. The colony was getting much bigger to the point that I was feeding them every 3 days, and to see how much they can truly devour, I had given them huge Madagascar hissing cockroach. And to my complete surprise, the Nucleus had completely devoured the massive cockroach just overnight and had left nothing but empty exoskeletons. I honestly thought it would take them at least a day or two to fully finish the cockroach, but oh my goodness. That's when I realized, I was like, hey, I think I bit off more than I could chew. Day by day, the colony was getting bigger and bigger. Not only their demand for food was increasing, but so was their need for new real estate. To accommodate their growth, I made them a small expansion nest for them to move into, but they had completely filled it up in a matter of a few weeks. So I tried my best to replicate the tarheel fortress for them to expand into, and it didn't take much for the Nicos to start taking a liking and start moving into. And now, here we are today. 1 full year after receiving just 2 queens with few workers, the colony had completely filled up these 3 nests, and they are desperately needed for a bigger nest. So, without further ado, let's start the moving process. The whole moving process took over 2 days to complete, and to this day I still find somehow escaped ants straggling around my living room, and somehow they're even outside. It's kinda crazy. It is the longest time I waited for a colony to move, and it really tested my patience. At one point I just wanted to open up their nest and just grab the queens and dump them into their outworld. But you know what, I think, me waiting was the right idea, and I definitely think it was worth the wait. And what's cool is that unlike the Floridanus, Nicos are much smaller, which makes the landscape feel much bigger than it actually is. And I love how everything leads up to the feeding island. And how when the ants climb up the small twig, they actually look like they're climbing up a massive tree that's holding up their feasting temple. It's something like straight out of the Lord of the Rings. I feel like this feeding island needs to have its own name, but I just can't come up with one. If you guys have any ideas, let me know in the comments below. So if you guys haven't noticed, I'm feeding this colony on a petri dish. I've noticed that the Nicos are much cleaner, so I figured if I just, take an additional step further and feed them on a petri dish, they would keep the outworld a little bit more cleaner and things wouldn't be as messy as, how the Floridanus made their outworld look like. Ah, God, cleaning up after the Floridanus is just the worst. But, I guess it is what it is. Now that the Nicos are in the new formicarium, they can finally start expanding again, and to help with their growth, I'll be increasing their protein diet to at least 2 to 3 times a week, and with one massive feeding in the middle. I really want to see them hit that 10,000 marker, and to do that, they're gonna need lots more protein, and I feel like once they hit 10,000, I wouldn't know what to do with myself, but hey, you know what, that's future ant-based problem, right? It's also a little bit further down the road, so I'm not too worried about it right now. And in other news, we also just hit 1,000 subscribers on the channel, and I cannot say enough on how thankful I am to you guys. I know I don't upload long videos like this as much as I can, or I should, but I promise that I will put in more effort into making it. I'm also working on other types of videos, such as funny skits. Well, funny to me, but skits that how I perceive ant colony to be, or what kind of things that ant keepers go through. So if you guys want to see that kind of videos, let me know in the comments below, especially on what kind of topics I should be covering. And then yeah, thank you very much, and make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. And I'm just gonna say it this one time, make sure to hit the bell icon, that way you guys can be completely up to date to the channel. Thank you guys so much, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Bye!